بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So nice to be in your midst, dear brothers and dear sisters. Although we're going to look at just one story today, we just have enough time for one story. Surah Al-Kahf is a surah of stories. It has at least 5 stories in there, out of which 3 are extremely prominent. And there's the other 2 stories. They're not always given as much prominence, but 3 are very, very prominent stories. You have the story of the people of the cave by which the surah is known, Surah Al-Kahf, Ashabul Kahf. That's one story. Then you have the story of the people of the gardens, the two brothers, 2 partners, whatever they were, as we'll be discussing. So that's the second story. And the third story is that of Musa and that righteous man, most likely Khidr alayhi salam. The fourth story is Dhul Qarnayn, the one who ruled the entire world. And the fifth story, if you want to add that in, is Adam alayhi salam and his encounter with the shaitan. So that's 5 stories, though 4 are probably a bit more prominent and 3 are very prominent. Surah Al-Kahf is a very, very important surah. It's one of those that stand out because it's something that we have been encouraged to recite every week. It's a Makki surah, so you can tell it's an earlier surah. It deals with some very core issues of belief, of perspective, of narrative, of worldview. That's what it deals with. It doesn't deal as much with specific commands and specific rulings in terms of jurisprudence. It actually deals with perspective, meta issues. That's why it's very important to get this right. It's such an important surah. It is the 18th surah of the Quran, 110 verses in all, and it kind of occurs right in the middle of the Quran. Where does وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ come? Which surah is that in? Surah Al-Kahf, right? So it's bang in the middle of the Quran. وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ. Now most of you will know that Surah Al-Kahf should be recited every week. You must have heard about that, and some of you may also know that it's supposed to be a protector against the Dajjal when he eventually comes out. So now the question is that why is it a protector against the Dajjal, the Antichrist? Is it because it's just a magical surah and when you read that it's like a spell and thus you'll be protected, there'll be a halo around you and Dajjal will not be able to do anything to you? Or is it a bit more than that? I think most of us, most people that read it every week, that read it without meaning, that just read it, alhamdulillah, they're still benefiting, there's still a barakah and blessing. I think that's kind of what they might think, that somehow magically this surah is just going to help you. And it will help you, but really what I think, the reason why it's so significant and why a person should read it once a week is because of the message that it contains. It is so powerful, the message that it contains so powerful. It actually goes from major issues down to the smaller issues. It talks about some of the most important aspects that humans need to be able to have the right understanding of how to proceed in this world, how to get something out of this world, how to be successful in this world, how to get something out of the hereafter. So for example, if you look at the main story, which is Surah Al-Kahf, that is all about faith. It's all about preservation of faith. It's all about steadfastness in faith. It is all about challenges to your faith. It is all about how a person, despite the opposition, despite the pressure, despite the challenges, despite whatever it may be, how people should adhere to their faith, and then how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually rewards you for doing that. He wants to see your effort and then suddenly He will help you. And that's why it's a miraculous story in the sense that these people are put to sleep for about 300 plus years. And then they wake up. It's not something that happens every day. But it's an amazing story that tells you about the steadfastness of faith and challenges to faith. Then you got the story of the people of the garden, which I'll be discussing. Then you've got the story of Musa and Khadir. And I think the main theme in that story is that of knowledge. It's about seeking knowledge. Never to think that you have sufficient knowledge. Never to think that you know it all. Never to think that I know enough and my worldview is now sufficient. There's always more to learn, and believe me, there is always more to learn. There is so much that we don't know compared to what we actually do know, even if we think we know a lot, and even if others think we know a lot. That's the biggest cause of deception, when you are the guy in the, I don't like the word Isaac, by the way. so please forgive me. I just don't like that word. It just sounds awful, right? I'll go on record to say that, right? In America, they call them MSAs, Muslim Student Associations, and I think that just sounds a bit more cooler than ISOC. ISOC, like what does that mean? I sock somebody, right? I zock somebody, like what does that mean? Or is it trying, and I'm sure it preceded the iPhone, right? Because I'm sure iZoc came out a long time ago. So I'm sure it's not about trying to get the cool factor of iPhone and iPad and I this, that and the other. But still, iZoc just doesn't sound right. Sorry about that. It doesn't, I mean, it's not personal to you guys. I mean, I was part of iZocs before you guys ever got into iZoc. So, don't worry about it. So, and the last story is about Dhul Qarnayn, right? The last part is about Dhul Qarnayn, which is this individual, mashallah, who ruled the entire world. And there were some challenges he faced. And some say that the main theme of his story is ikhlas and sincerity. Let's get into our main story. What's very interesting about this surah with 110 verses approximately is that the 50th verse gives a very important message. What is that verse? أَفَتَتَّخِذُونَهُ وَذُرِّيَّتَهُ أَوْلِيَاءَ مِن دُونِي وَهُمْ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ بِئْسَ لِلظَّالِمِينَ بَدَلًا. Are you then going to take him and his progeny to be your close friends and associates? That means talking about the shaitan. Are you going to take him and his progeny to be friends besides me? Allah is saying, to my exclusion, you're going to take him as your friend? Whereas he is your enemy. لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ. He is your enemy. بِئْسَ لِلظَّالِمِينَ بَدَلًا. If you do that, then what a bad reward or compensation there will be for those who oppress. It's up to you, but that's bang in the middle of that surah. It's very strategically located. We're not here to speak about Surah Al-Kahf in general, but in order to appreciate where this story is of today, the story that we're going to look at today, where it occurs, it's important to understand the grand scheme of things of where it occurs. And that's why I'm mentioning Surah Al-Kahf. Now, let's start with the surah. This surah, not the surah, but this particular story, which is about the two partners that had or rather the one individual who owned the two gardens. That's really what it is. There are two partners. One of them ends up owning this huge estate with gardens and everything within there. One of the best farms and orchards and living arrangements that you could ever have for a middle to upper class person. It's quite an amazing kind of setup. That's what this story is about. So while Surah Al-Kahf, what was the theme of Surah Al-Kahf? The Ashabul Kahf, the people of the Kahf, what was the main theme? Right, it was about faith and meta issues. This one is more common. Surah Al-Kahf, the story there may happen once in centuries, right? May happen once in centuries. But this particular story is so at home for us, especially for many of us who come from backgrounds and who expect to be people of this particular class. And this is talking about the middle to higher class. Obviously in the interaction of this class with a lower class of people. If you want to put people into classes, right? That's what this is all about. I'll give you the background of the surah. You've already heard the verses, the translation is up there, but I'll just give you a bit of a background as to where this is all coming from. This is from verse 32 to verse 44 of the surah. This story spans those verses. There's a lot of difference of opinions to exactly who it's referring to. I'm going to go through a bit of that just to give you a backdrop, but you don't need to get bogged down in the detail of that. It's just nice to be enlightened about where this could have come from and some of the reasons for why this verse may have come down. But to be honest, the message in there is more perennial. The message in there is timeless. And it can apply, as I said, as opposed to Ashabul Kahf, which is a miracle that happens once in a while, once in a very long time, which you will never, hardly ever probably experience again, I would think, maybe. But this is something very at home, and it's something that can help us by just pondering over these surahs, over these verses. Very important. Number one opinion is that this is actually about two brothers, both from the so-called Makhzumi tribe, right? And one of them happens to be Abu Salama, the husband of Salama radiyallahu, the Ummahatul, one of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that married the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam after her husband died. So her husband that had passed away, he and his brother, he accepted Islam, his brother did not accept Islam, and each one of them had inherited from their father 4,000 dinars each, 4,000 gold pieces each, which is a huge amount of money. Today, 20 dinars is worth about 2,000 pounds. 20 dinars is worth 2,000 pounds. So who's doing maths here? Go on. So each one got 4,000 dinars. And if 20 are worth 2,000 pounds, how many pounds would 4,000 dinars be worth? 800,000 pounds. It's not bad. It's a decent amount of money. You could buy a house in London for that. Right? You could buy a decent house in London for that. MashaAllah. Another story is that these were not brothers, but these were actually two partners. And they went their different ways. One spent their money in a particular way, the other one spent their... I don't want to bog you down with too much of that detail. Let's look at a more detailed story that this is actually people from some earlier generations that the Quran is speaking about. It is not necessarily from the Arabs of that time. They're speaking about maybe people from earlier generations. One's name was Tamliha, the other's name was Qartush. Now, what happened is they both were partners, maybe in some business or some land or something like that. They started off as being partners. Then they decided to dissolve their business, their partnership, and whatever the proceeds were, they each received 3,000 dinars each. 3,000 dinars each. So that's a bit lower than that amount you said. It was probably going to be about 500,000-600,000, right? Not a bad investment. I mean, the apprentice guys, they're looking for 250,000, so it's double that. So that's not bad, right? You get 500. You get that much. The believer among them, one was a believer. They say one was a believer. The other one, it's a bit silent. In some opinions, it says that he was a disbeliever. In others, it says that he was a believer, but a bit off track. So you've got both of these opinions. But my understanding from the verses themselves is that they were both believers. But and you will see why I mentioned that later. So what happens is, the first one, he takes his 3,000 gold pieces and he goes and purchases for 1,000, for 1/3 of his wealth, he goes and purchases slaves, and he goes and frees them. So that's a very good act, to go and buy slaves and free these people, make them free. That in Islam is considered to be extremely, extremely beneficial and praiseworthy. So he goes and does that. Then with another 1,000, he goes and purchases a lot of clothing, and he goes and he clothes a number of poor people who don't have enough clothes. And you see the pictures of the Rohingya, a lot of the children, they are just naked. They hardly have anything. They have maybe shorts on or some trousers on. They got nothing, right? And some of the babies have absolutely nothing, right? So he goes and he puts clothing on them. So that's his second 1,000. With the third 1,000, he goes and buys a huge amount of food and he goes and feeds the people. So this is some of the main things: feeding, clothing, and freeing. Some of the best things that you can do. And that's what he does with his money. Then what happens is he also, with some of the other money, some of the money in between, he builds a few masjids and so on, and does a number of other good deeds. The other guy though, he's business minded. Right? This guy is also business minded, but his business mind is spiritually business minded. So he's all of his trade is about the other abode that he's going to move to eventually. The other guy focused on this abode, the immediate one. He wanted to see his investments come to light straight away. He didn't want to wait for them in that second abode. Maybe because the second one didn't, though he may have believed, but it wasn't too strong. That belief wasn't too strong. Hey, I'll deal with it when I get there, as many of us think. We'll get there. When we get there, we'll deal with it. We do believe in it, but we'll do it and we'll deal with it. Hopefully it'll all be great. If it's been wonderful in this world, it'll be wonderful there as well, kind of thing. The other guy, no, it was so important that is the house that is the abode that he wanted to really fix for himself. So what this person does, the second one, is he goes and marries some really wonderfully wealthy women. So he adds to his wealth straight away. He's got a lot of wealth. He gets married to wealthy people, and I mean, a lot of people like to do that, right? Nowadays, you're not going to get wealthy people trying to get their daughters or son married to non-wealthy people. They have to match, and they'll wait for a long time before that happens. They'll even do it at the expense of getting old, right? And they won't let their daughters, and daughters are coming and crying to ulama saying, look, I want to get married to this guy, he's a religious guy, but my father won't let because, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. He doesn't have the same degree as me. He didn't go to UCL, he didn't go to Imperial, he went to, I don't know, where did he go? Huh? Yeah, he went to Cambridge, man. He didn't do enough. He went to Oxford. Like, yeah, big deal, right? He needs to come to these places. So number one, he got married to wealthy women, so that adds to his wealth. Now that's really shrewd thinking, isn't it? That's really shrewd thinking, right? Prenuptial contracts, I don't think he made one of those. But he definitely knew what he was doing in terms of that. Then he bought a number of animals. He bought a number of conveyances, animals, horses, camels, and he also bought some cows and so on. And then he set up a farm, because that was kind of the business of the day. It was all natural, very organic businesses in those days. And then he got somebody to work on that, and mashallah, it just started increasing. Animals started having, progeny, and it just started increasing. Those kind of things just increase. Then whatever he did, whatever left over, he invested that in a number of other places, whatever the possibilities were in those days, and he became one of the wealthiest people in that area. Of his time, he became one of the wealthiest people. Now, the first person, after he'd spent all of his wealth doing what he did in terms of the hereafter, he becomes into need. He is now in need. He doesn't have enough money to get by. So what he thought is that guy's my friend. He's my old business partner. I'll just go and work for him. You can tell that he's very humble. He's very a simple kind of person. He gets rid of all of his money, and then he goes and tries to go and work for this individual. He says, maybe I should just go and work for him. I could work in one of his gardens. I could work in one of his fields, picking fruit or whatever the case is. I'm sure he's got a job for me. There's a lot of jobs that that are available in these places. So he goes to his friend, and when he gets there, he can hardly get in to see him, because now he lives in a different, like a big palace, and there's guards and there's door people and so on. And he just about, according to another opinion, they said, look, you can't see him, we don't know who you are, but in the morning he's going to come out, so you'll see him. So just wait outside. So what he did was he just lay for overnight. He just slept there on the street, and when the guy came in the morning, that's when he saw him. So there's different opinions about what happened there. But anyway, finally when he got to him, if he got inside, his friend recognized him. And he was very welcoming in the beginning. He was very welcome in the beginning, nice to see you after a long time, and we were partners and so on and so forth. Then when he asked him that, look, I've got a need from you, can you give me a job, because I need somewhere to work. So he was quite shocked. He said, didn't I give you exactly half of the wealth? Didn't we split the wealth half? Where's all your money gone? He would have thought he would have done the same thing or something. So what did you do with your wealth? He says, I purchased with it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that was much more enduring and much more lasting and much greater. Now he started speaking a language that the other guy just couldn't bear or tolerate. So right until now, he seems to be quite accommodating. He wants to know, he's got some concern. In another version, it actually says that he had concern, like when he asked him that, can I just work there? You give me the food for my day and just change my clothes when I need to change my clothes. He said, I can do much more than that for you. Then he started asking him, what did you do with your money though? And when he started telling him that I gave it to the king of the worlds and so on, his tune changed. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, are you stupid? You can just tell that, are you serious? أَإِنَّكَ لَمِنَ الْمُصَدِّقِينَ? Like, are you serious? Are you really telling the truth that that's what you did? He was just so far gone in terms of his dependence on wealth and his confidence in his wealth that he just couldn't believe what the other person was saying. So anyway, he started saying, أَإِنَّكَ لَمِنَ الْمُصَدِّقِينَ وَمَا أَظُنُّ السَّاءَةَ قَائِمَةً. I don't even believe that there's going to be a hereafter. Like, you're talking about hereafter? What are you talking about? Look at what Dawkins is saying. Haven't you read Dawkins? Right? There's no God. Sam Harris, have you read him? Have you listened to his lectures? I mean, of course, I'm making that stuff up. Right? He didn't say that. Those guys didn't exist then. وَمَا أَرَاكَ إِلَّا سَفِيهًا. I just see that you are crazy. You're foolish. You're stupid. That's what he said. وَمَا أَرَاكَ إِلَّا سَفِيهًا. And he says, he got so troubled, he got so upset that he says that, you know what? I got nothing for you except that I'm not going to give you anything. You're just too stupid. Right? He says, وَمَا جَزَاؤُكَ عِنْدِي عَلَى سَفَاهَتِكَ إِلَّا الْحِرْمَانِ. Like, there's nothing I can do for you because you're just too far gone. And he says, haven't you seen what I've done with my wealth? Haven't you seen what I've done in my wealth? Look at where it's got to, and the wonderful life that I'm living and all the rest of it. Look at this house, look where I live, look at this nice mansion, look at these guys. You can just put it into today's terms. And that's because I earned it and you were stupid. That's what he said again. Get out of here. Like, I don't even want to talk to you. You can see the attitude just changes of a person. Yet this is a person he knew. He's not even trying to help him. And then after that, whatever happened, happened based on the story. So now let us look at the story from the Quran and let us make some sense of that, inshallah. Let us see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us. So ponder carefully. There will be lessons from it that I may not be able to pick up, right? But you will be able to pick up. And I'm going to, inshallah, give you an opportunity at the end to tell me any of the lessons that you see coming from there, how it's impacted you, inshallah, how you relate to it. Because the Quran is a wonderful piece of work that speaks to everybody differently, based on the condition of our heart, based on our state, based on our needs. So everybody's got different needs, and it'd be really nice and enriching for us to hear what some of you, inshallah, may see from this. So let us start. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واضرب لهم مثل الرجلين جعلنا لأحدهما جنتين من أعناب وحففناهما بنخل وجعلنا بينهما زرعا كلتا الجنتين آتت أكلها ولم تظلم منه شيئا وفجرنا خلالهما نهرا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that tell them the example and the parable of the two men. Now if you see the way the Quran is speaking about it, it's not telling you who these two men were. It's not telling you one was from here and one was from, this area, or this is what his age was. And it's not like a modern story, because the Quran wants to get to the message, because it wants to make it timeless, so you can relate to the core message of the story. So tell them the parable of two men. For one of them, out of the two, we made for them two gardens. And look at these gardens now. I don't know if you understand farming, but seriously, this would be an ideal farm, a dream farm for a person. The reason I know this is because where my ancestors are from, where my father and my mother are from, I've been to that village and I've stayed there for a while. And it's a farming village. And one of the biggest things that they suffer from, even though they got a huge amount of land and beautiful mango trees, on our lands we probably have about, I would say, over 10 types of mangoes. I mean not 10 trees of mangoes, I mean 10 types of mango trees. And that's orchards full of different types of mango. And I could name them for you probably right now, but it'd be boring for you. Right? Anybody likes mangoes here, by the way? Yeah? Right. So there's at least 10 different types of mangoes. And I remember when I was studying there, my cousin used to bring me, literally there's a basket that big. I used to put it under my bed and just share it out as they grew ripe. It was just a mango galore, mashallah. Right? So anyway, one of the biggest challenges that they have in this area, despite the fact that you have so much land, is irrigation. Right? Getting the water from the closest lake or stream or whatever the case is costs huge amount of money. It dries up because it's very hot climate. Digging wells, you spend a huge amount of money trying to dig a well, expecting that you're going to reach water, but you don't. You dig 50 meters down or whatever it is, you don't get water. Then they try again the next time, and it's each time you try, you have to pay the same amount of money. It's a massive problem. There are people sitting there who have pieces of land, but it's dry and barren. So now what we're talking about with this person is, now if somebody does grow something, they're going to grow either wheat, or they're going to grow a bit of corn, they're going to grow a bit of mangoes, they're going to grow a bit of sugarcane, something or the other. But for somebody to have what he has, now understand his diversity. This guy's got it all. He says, Allah says that we have made for him two gardens of grapevines. Wow. Grapevines. From that you make wine. Right? From that, grapes are some of the best crops that you could. A vineyard costs a huge amount of money. It's a luxury asset. It's like golf. It's like, having a membership at a golf club. Right? If you've got a vineyard, rich people, they go and buy, what do they buy? They go and buy a yacht. When they have enough money, they buy a yacht, they buy big houses, they buy a vineyard. That's another thing. These are rich men's games. Right? They get membership in a golf club. That's basically what they do. So, number one, he had two gardens of grapevines. Two, not even one. He had two gardens of grapevines. Number two, surrounded with date palms. MashaAllah. Those nice palm trees. And not just barren palm trees, because there are hundreds of different types of palm trees. Right? With that, some bear fruit and some don't. These are date palms. Right? So they are producing fruit. Nothing is being wasted here. Now you've got date palms you've got vineyards, and then in between, that's fruit, and now in between what you have is cornfields. So you've got a place for crops, for farming, not just fruits, but vegetable as well. Now what more can you ask for? On top of that, it says that both gardens were extremely productive. They both yielded huge amount of fruit. وَلَا تَظْلِمْ It says, وَلَمْ تَظْلِمْ مِنْهُ شَيْءٍ They did not fail in any way. They were just pouring out fruit. Extremely productive. And then on top of that, he didn't have to worry about irrigation. We made a stream flow through them. He had his own water source. Self-contained farm with its own water source. And that adds to the beauty. It's a stream, it's not a well. Wells, you can't see wells. They're just dug in the ground, you get a pipe out of them, or however you irrigate your fields to them. This is a stream, and believe me, has anybody been to the Jannatul Arif, the Khin Relief in Alhambra? In Granada? You must go there. They've still preserved it. It's literally gardens, probably the whole size of all the buildings of UCL, right? It's a massive garden and it looks absolutely beautiful, surrounded by all their different palaces and that. It's quite amazing, to be honest. It's probably one of the best one of the best estates I've actually seen. I haven't seen so many, but this is really beautiful. Muslims of Spain. So we made a stream flow through them. وَكَانَ لَهُ ثَمَرٌ So he had abundant fruit. He had abundant fruit. Now you can understand that to have such an operation, trees and so on, they just don't grow. This is not a mechanical farm, right? This is not a mechanical farm of today, right? A factory farm rather, right? Which has all been placed in some kind of conveyor belts and things like that. No, you need people to work here. So basically what's going on here is that for something like this to have a smooth operation, you're going to have a lot of people to work there. So that tells you that he had a lot of people that were working there. For this to work, he had to have people. So that's all assumed, that this can't run by itself. So he's got the stream and everything, but mashallah, he's got the know-how, he's got the help, he's got the assistants, he's got the laborers, he's got the workers. That is another tough job. Because in the village I know that when it comes to seasons where you have to water, then after that you wait for a while, and then after that it comes a time when you have to start cutting it down, you need to hire people. You can't have them for the entire year because they'll be wasting their time. You only need them according to season. That is not easy either. They go far and wide to look for people that they can hire because nobody wants to work. There's somewhere else. It's hard work. So to be able to have laborers, right, that are doing the job for you, and Allah is saying that he used to get a lot of crops, he used to get a lot of fruit. It means that he had, mashallah, everything secured. فَقَالَ لِصَاحِبِهِ He doesn't tell you where he met his brother, his companion. That is filled in by all the commentary that I gave before as to who exactly his friend was. But somewhere, somehow he met this companion of his, the one he used to be friends with or partners with or brothers with, whoever it was. Right? The Quran doesn't speak about that. All that I told you is from narrations and from Israelite traditions and things like that. So we can't be 100% sure about that. وَهُوَ يُحَاوِرُهُ He was discussing with him. So it seems like they were having a casual discussion. وَهُوَ يُحَاوِرُهُ Casual discussion. So while they're discussing, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? This, that and the other. They must have met somewhere. Now remember, when you get at this level, right? When you get at this level and you become so wealthy, what else happens in this world? Don't you start making more contacts? Don't you start getting invited to places? Other people are interested in becoming your friends? Now the Quran doesn't mention all that, but that's all assumed. Because once you become known and wealthy, people want to know you because they think you can help them somehow, or whatever the case is. So all of a sudden, what starts happening to you? Your confidence in what you have grows because you see it producing a benefit for you. You have everything. You see the money coming in. You see the assets. You see that this is real estate. This is not just like some kind of fickle business that may go down tomorrow, but this is real estate. I own all of this and it's going very well. I couldn't hope for any better. What starts happening to a person like that? Don't you start kind of trusting in that? If you're not very righteous, if you're not very connected to Allah, you will start trusting in your own energy, in your own power, in your own know-how, in your own intelligence, in your own hard work, in your own savvy of doing things. Then people are getting to know you. You're getting invited to parties and so on. Suddenly you just start thinking, I can do what I want. You can start pulling, who is that? I mean, in Europe, the governments used to be run by religions before, right? Religion, Christianity ruled the whole of the Europe before, right? But who runs it now? Who runs our politics today? Who are the biggest donors? Corporate interests. They are a massive aspect of our politics today. So these are the kind of people that would grease that wheel, right? Grease that system. And that's exactly what's going on. So he says, while one day he was talking to his friend, he says, you know what, I've got more wealth than you. Like, what a stupid statement. Why would you say that to somebody? Why would you say that to somebody? I mean, I can understand somebody flashing his watch, like, hey, look at my Rolex. Because these are, in Asians, what is the watch that becomes their standard symbol when they make a lot of money? Does anybody know? Rado? Right? No? The older generation, they're into their Rados, like, you didn't get Rado, that means I've got it. And then you get some of the others who are not Muslim, they start wearing all this gold. You've seen the Asians, Indians, they start wearing a lot of gold, big rings and, Ya Allah. I'm talking about men, by the way. I mean, women are allowed to wear gold, but I'm talking about men. So he could have just flashed something around, like, my Gucci wallet or my, Rolex watch or Louis Vuitton handbag. I mean, if you don't want to forget that, right? Where you actually pay Louis Vuitton, you pay them to promote their product. I just can't, that is such an ingenuous idea, right? All these other groups, all these other companies, they have small tags. But Louis Vuitton has managed to get away by doing something which is so inner city and low. Right, but they've managed to do it with a high level people. Because people of inner city, they're the ones who generally like to do big Nikes and big Adidas on there. Because they need to relate to something. They need to belong. So the only way they can do it is getting these big name tags. That's why wealthy people don't show big tags. But Louis Vuitton is an exception. Have you noticed that? That you carry their bag and it says LV, 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 like all the way through. And thus you promote it and other people need to have it as well then. So it's in your face, mashallah, that they must be clever, right? So what happens now is, he tells his friend, I have more wealth and a larger following than you. أَنَا أَكْثَرُ مِنْكَ مَالًا وَأَعَزُّ نَفَرًا. I've got much more of a following, meaning I have a lot more influence. Look at my phone book. Look, I've got direct numbers for all of these people, right? Now, what happens is, it says, وَدَخَلَ جَنَّةَ. He goes into his garden, he enters his garden, وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. But by this time, he is an oppressor of himself. The Quran doesn't say that he's an oppressor to that person. He wasn't oppressing his friend, though he was saying what he was saying. But the Quran says he was oppressing himself. Because in Islam, we have this idea that when you oppress somebody else, you're actually oppressing yourself. Because Allah sees everything and He records everything. So if I've wronged somebody, may Allah forgive and forbid, if I've wronged somebody and they can't do anything back to me, Allah will take me to task. Because there is a Yawmul Hisab, Yawmul Deen, Yawmul Qiyamah. And that day, everything will come to light. And everybody will be avenged for whatever happened to them and whatever people did. So Allah says that he went into his garden having wronged himself by saying, now just look at this. Look at what he says and tell me, how can somebody say this? He says, مَا أَظُنُّ أَن تَبِيدَ هَذِهِ أَبَدًا. I don't think that this will ever perish. It's just going so well. Everything is so perfect. I don't think this is ever going to perish. Now it's just like, let's just say that a guy has purchased several properties. Got one in Kensington, one in whatever, several properties around London. He's getting, his yearly rent is several 100,000, if not a, good amount. And what is the best investment you can make? That is the most sturdiest, is real estate, as you know, right? Generally speaking. This guy's got real estate. It's functioning very well. He says, I can't see this ever going down. You see that there's calamities and there's problems in all other industries, but real estate is going up in London. Right? So what are you going to think? I don't think this will ever perish. And then he goes beyond that. And this is where the biggest problem lies. Or that the last hour will ever come. وَمَا أَظُنُّ السَّاعَةَ قَائِمَةً. I don't believe that the last hour is going to come. It's just too good. You can tell that he's so submerged that he doesn't believe that he's ever going to go away. You can tell he's drowning. He's intoxicated now in his own wealth. He's got too much confidence in it. He's forgotten. I just spoke to a person recently, and he says, look, you know what the biggest problem is for politicians or anybody ruling or running a country is that they can't see things from a third person's perspective. They're so involved, and every day they're having to make numerous decisions, quick decisions. They don't necessarily even know all the facts. Their ministers may tell them half the story, full story, whatever, and every day they're making several decisions. Yes, this, do this, do this. They never have a time to step back, look at it from the vantage point of you and I, right? And that's why even though some of them may think well, they get so tunnel visioned in their process that they start believing in their own self, and they get so stuck in it that they can't see it. And you and I will be thinking, what is wrong with this guy? And subhanAllah, you see some of these things happening in the world today, right? Some people making some particular politicians or rulers around the world making some very crazy, or what we see as really crazy moves. I think, can't they see that? Like we can see it, or can we see it? You know, it's just so fuzzy. But it's probably because they're so into it, and it's just so fast that you're on a train and you're just making decisions. There's no way you can get off and actually observe what's going on. It's really sad. And only those who have tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said to a sahabi who came to him that, look, don't ask for imara. La tas'alil imara. Don't ask for leadership. It's not a nice place to be honest. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, if you are given it by force, compelled to do it, then Allah will help you. Because that means you've been chosen for this. But if you ask for it for yourself, you're asking for trouble. You will not be helped. Then you'll be left to your own devices, your own resources, and then you fall into that rut. You fall into that pressured situation. So really think about that. The more intense the position, the more intense it is. So now this person is saying, I don't think this will ever perish, or even that the last hour will come. And then look, now this is why I say that he could have been a believer, but he's lost his way. Because look at what he said. He's still taking the wager by saying, even if I was, وَلَئِن رُدِدْتُ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي, even if I was to be returned to my Lord, لَأَجِدَنَّ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا مُنْقَلَبًا, I would find something a lot better down there. So he's thinking that because of what he has here, and he's enjoying for the last, several years or whatever, last 20 years, last several decades, nothing's ever gone wrong for me. Why should it go wrong now? Do you understand? Why should it go wrong now? So he said, okay, even if there is an akhirah to go to, I've never really thought about it, but even if there is, I should be fine there. In Hajj, a few years ago, I had a guy with me, and I saw that he's a very savvy guy. Everywhere, he was like first in the queue. In Mina, for example, where you have to get a decent place for because it's such a small area and everybody finds a place for their sleeping place. He had the best place by the door, and I observed this because I noticed these things, so I observed it. After a few days, I got talking to him, and he says, you know what? Allah loves me. I say, MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah. Why does Allah love you? He says, because look, He always gives me the best. Now, may Allah love him, and may Allah give him the best. But that is not a sign of it. We have to remember that. Allah gives the dunya to both those He loves and those He doesn't love. Because the dunya does not weigh or equal for Allah in Allah's sight even as much as the wing of a mosquito, which is infinitesimally small. Right? God can give you the whole world if you want it. But it doesn't prove anything. So He gives those He loves and those He doesn't love. But the akhirah, the hereafter, He only gives to those He loves. Now, alhamdulillah, if we're of those who He has given the akhirah and the dunya, then alhamdulillah. Do you understand? They're not mutually exclusive things. You can have people like Uthman radiallahu anh, Zubayr radiallahu anh, and who else? Abdurrahman ibn Auf and others who were wealthy and they had the akhirah as well. So it's not impossible, but not to the exclusion of the hereafter. And these are things that we need to keep in mind, because when you get out of here with your maths degrees and physics degrees and engineering degrees and what else you got? Medicine? Yeah? And you start making a lot of money, please remember that there is still a God that gave you all of this, that gave us all of this. And at the end of the day, He can strip us from it, or He can make it worthless. He could just make it that we're running after it day by day, working huge amount of hours, and at the end of the day, we've got no satisfaction in our mind. What is the point of it? So what you're doing is wonderful, inshallah, if Allah allows us to use it in the right way for our personal benefit and for other people's benefit. And may Allah make that a reality for all of us. So then he says, if I was to be sent back, then I would get even better down there. If it's supposed to be better down there, I'll get better down there because I'm the chosen one. Now, have you noticed here that in the beginning, when he first started, he said to his friend that I've got more wealth than you and I've got a larger following than you. That was kind of a criticism of his friend. But did his friend say anything? Did that partner say anything? He didn't say anything. Then he started talking about his akhirah, his hereafter. Now look at, this is where his companion steps in. You could tell that this is a righteous person who doesn't mind being affronted personally, but when it comes to somebody who's messing up their faith and who's violating the commands of Allah, that's when he feels that he must speak. So he says, قال له صاحبه وهو يحاوره أكفرت بالذي خلقك أكفرت بالذي خلقك من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم سواك رجلا لكن هو الله ربي ولا أشرك بربي أحدا. His companion retorted at that point, have you no faith in him who created you from dust? He's reminding him that, okay, if you've become bedazzled by everything you got, then think about how you were born, how your inception, your origin, your genesis was. Have you no faith in him who created you from dust, from a small drop of fluid, then shaped you into the man that you are? And that's why he said, for me though, he is God and he is my Lord. So regardless of what's my situation, my belief remains strong. He is my God and he is my Lord for me. And I will never set, وَلَا أُشْرِكُ بِرَبِّي أَحَدًا, I will never set any partners with him. That is something I will never do. Meaning, what partner was this first one setting up for him? Did you see the partner setting up, the rich guy? Did he set up a partner for Allah? Did he do any shirk? Did you see any shirk taking place? Any partnering? He did. And that's the shirk we all do sometimes, unfortunately. Where our entire focus is supposed to be on Allah, our focus and reliance turns to something else. So it's a lesser form of shirk. We're not going to worship that thing directly, but we indirectly worship it. So that's why I think this is very relevant when he says, I'm not going to do any shirk. I'm not going to partner anybody with Allah. And then he gave him some nasiha, his advice. He's got no fear from him. You got all that wealth, you got all those people, you got all that influence. You can have me picked up tomorrow, no problem. I'm going to give you nasiha. So what does he say to him? وَلَوْلَا إِذْ دَخَلْتَ جَنَّتَكَ قُلْتَ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ إِن تَرَنِ أَنَا أَقَلَّ مِنْكَ مَالًا وَوَلَدًا فعسى ربي أن يؤتيني خيرا من جنتك ويرسل عليها حسبانا من السماء فتصبح صعيدا زلقا أو يصبح ماؤها غورا فلن تستطيع له طلبا. He said, if only when you had entered your garden, keep your garden, enjoy your garden, but when you enter your garden, he said, you should say, this is God's will. I've got this because of God. He's allowed me to have this. He's desired for me to have this. He's willed this for me. And La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, one of the most powerful du'as you can have, which is that there is no power. This is God's will. La quwwata illa billah. There is no power except that given by Allah. So everything that I've got, yes, I've got it, alhamdulillah, but it's because of Allah. Basically, he's telling him, don't be a small Qarun. Remember, Qarun said, Utituhu ala ilmin indi. I got this because of my own knowledge and understanding of these things, not because of God. So he's telling him, he's reminding him of the same thing. That enjoy it, but just remember that it comes from God. And then he said to him, although you see that I've got less wealth and offspring to you, I've got less resources than you, my Lord may well give me something better than your garden. Full trust. I could still end up tomorrow with better than you. And then number 2, and God sent thunderbolts. That's what he says here. يُرْسِلْ عَلَيْهَا حُسْبَانًا مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ, that he sent thunderbolts on your garden from the sky, so that eventually it just becomes a deep barren of dust. Now you have to remember, whether in business or otherwise, tomorrow, I know some people who did real estate business, and they were actually working with, I think, a lot of Europeans they would put in. Now remember, after the whole Brexit problem, much of their businesses died because not enough people are coming through now. So half of their houses are empty. Overnight, just because of a law that was passed. So they've had to diversify. When it comes to farms and so on, it's even worse, because you have to work hard, and when the season is right, when the crops are ready, then you make your money. Then you make a lot of money. But the problem is that what happens in between, just maybe a few weeks or a day or two before you're supposed to reap your harvest, and everything just is destroyed. A fire just sweeps through, a wildfire like those in California, for example, or a thunderbolt or something else. It just all goes down a drain. That's why we can never feel independent from Allah. Something could happen. I always fear. It's almost like, when you're driving and you're going around a roundabout, don't you have to hold your wheel very hard to make sure that your car doesn't spin? Because generally, if you're turning around somewhere, you have to hold it. Otherwise, if you let go, what happens? The wheel goes and the wheels try to go straight. And I think sometimes there that the energy that I'm getting, I know it's very mundane, but the energy that I'm getting there is from Allah. If He causes me to lose energy right now, I'm going to bang into something. Now we take it as so granted, we take it for so granted that we don't even think about these things. But at the end of the day, Allah is helping us and powering us at every instance. So now, in order to finish this section off, he says, Allah may send a thunderbolt on your garden from the sky so that it becomes a heap of barren dust. That's all you're going to be left with. Or its water that you have there, which you're so excited about, may sink so deep into the ground that you will never be able to reach it again. Allah will just cause it to dry up. It's very interesting. He didn't say that your water will evaporate. He said it will sink down, because there's always going to be water down, but you're not going to be able to get to it. It's a very interesting expression. And this is exactly what happened. The person didn't listen to him. He didn't take heed. So Allah says, وَأُحِيطَ بِثَمَرِهِ فَأَصْبَحَ يُقَلِّبُ كَفَّيْهِ عَلَى مَا أَنْفَقَ فِيهَا وَهِيَ خَاوِيَةٌ عَلَى عُرُوشِهَا وَيَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أُشْرِكْ بِرَبِّي أَحَدًا. And this is why I believe that he was a believer to start with, but he'd lost his way because of the influx, because of the effects of materialism on him. Right? That's why he says, and so it was, Allah affected his garden, his fruit was completely destroyed, and there he was wringing his hands over that huge amount he had invested in it. All of it is lost. You can't get it back, right? It's all lost, there's no insurance. As it drooped on its trellises, and he was saying, I wish I had not set up any partner to Allah. I just wish I had not done so. Because even if I had remained a believer in God, and if all of this had been destroyed, I know that God would have still rewarded me in the hereafter. But this way, I've lost it in this world, and I've lost it in the hereafter as well. So then he says, وَلَمْ تَكُنْ لَهُ فِئَةٌ يَنْصُرُونَهُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ وَمَا كَانَ مُنْتَصِرًا. Remember he said, I've got more supporters than you, I've got more progeny, more helpers than you. He had said that before. So now Allah says that he had no forces to help him other than God. Basically, all of those forces he had, none of that came to his avail. He could not even help himself. هُنَالِكَ الْوَلَايَةُ لِلَّهِ الْحَقِّ هُوَ خَيْرٌ ثَوَابًا وَخَيْرٌ عُقْبًا. And this is what ends the story. The only protection is that of God, the true God. He gives the best rewards and the best outcome. Now, a few lessons, additional lessons that we learn from this. I mean, we've done a number of lessons, but basically, a few of the other lessons that we learn from this is that we can learn a lot from looking at the stories of people who have a lot in this world, but then who lose it. Because we only look at one side of the story. We look at people who've made a lot of money. We look at we see documentaries on Elon Musk, right? We hear about the Google guys, Sergey Brin and the other guy. We hear about Bill Gates, mashallah, at least he's doing something with his work, he's doing something humanitarian with his wealth. We look at all of this and we think, hey, I need to do this as well. But also look at stories of people who lost everything. And believe me, I've met a number of people like that. Just a week ago, I was with somebody who was a millionaire. And now he's actually finding it hard to just pay his rent. He was a millionaire. I know another guy in another country who was a millionaire. And these bigger companies, conglomerates, he was doing much better in his local area than they were. They basically stopped his supply. Right? He was a reseller. They stopped his supply. And because he hadn't put his money right, he lost everything. And today, alhamdulillah, he's got a lot back, but he lost everything. Money comes, money goes. The main thing is make your money, have good money, no problem. But don't get caught up with this guy who ends up losing his faith, who becomes so confident and so trusting and reliant in his wealth that he thinks, I'm sorted, nothing's going to happen to me. Because Allah can take it out pretty easily. The only thing that you can really be proud of between you and Allah is if you are connected to Allah. If you can wake up in the morning and do your salat while you're working. And that's what this individual told me yesterday, the person I spoke about in politics. He said, these people don't have time, they're rushed to make decisions. They don't have time for exercise and they don't have time for prayer. They don't have time for physical exercise, they don't have time for spiritual exercise. So at the end of the day, what are they working for? Is it just for a bit of name in this world? To hoard wealth and put it on offshore accounts? And then maybe you'll never touch it? Because it seems like day by day things are coming out and being disclosed. And then people are becoming degraded and humiliated. It's really sad that when you're 70, 80 years old, that's when people find out how bad you are. Right? And until then, you'd been just exploiting people like Harry Weinstein and so on and so forth. And then at the height of that, when you're supposed to be able to retire and enjoy, you get degraded. Allah protect us. Because this is not just a non-Muslim thing. It happens to Muslims as well. Right? It just happens to anybody who gets caught up in this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. There's numerous other things as well. But basically there is no point, as he did at the end when he started saying, wringing his hands saying, I wish I had not done shirk. I wish I had not imparted with Allah. There is no point once you've felt the power of Allah, meaning the wrath of Allah, then you start feeling remorse. Start feeling remorse from before. Allah sends generally smaller signs, and if we don't pick those up, then He sends bigger signs. But let us not get to those bigger signs. Let us understand by those smaller signs. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us. Now, just to give you a quick understanding, what do we get out of this story? I'm going to wait to listen to you as well, but I just want to mention one thing. Let us start reciting Surah Al-Kahf. I will let you read the other stories of Surah Al-Kahf. That will then give you a full picture, inshallah, of why this surah is so powerful and why it will act as a barrier against the Dajjal. When you understand the Surah Al-Kahf, when you understand the story of the people of the cave, it will give you strength in your faith. You'll be able to bear. People who wear hijab in this day and age, I know it's not easy, right? You're at the forefront of the da'wah. People may make fun of you, they may mock you. But when you listen to that story, you understand what they went through. The Ashabul Kahf, when you read that story, are you going to be covering that story soon? Right? If you're not, then you should read it. It's in all the tafsir books. Your faith will be strong. This story tells us about materialism. The world will open up to you. Today you may have student debt. Tomorrow, inshallah, you'll have a lot of money. Right? Just how you use that money and what you do with it, and let not your perspective of the world become deficient. That's what this is all about. And then the other stories, the knowledge story and the Ikhlas story. Once you got that right in Surah Al-Kahf, the Prophet ﷺ said, this surah will protect you from the Dajjal. And the Antichrist is supposed to be one of the worst of any challenges you would have faced in our lives. One of the worst temptations. Think about the greatest temptation that you have today. What is it that you can't avoid, that you know you shouldn't be doing? Dajjal is supposed to be a greater temptation than that. And the way he will act is he will challenge your faith. So by reading the story of the Kahf, inshallah, we will be fortified against that. Number two, a lot of wealth and resources will be in the hands of Dajjal and his followers. And if you understand that, it won't affect you, because you won't get caught up in that. He won't be able to tempt you with that. Number three, it says Dajjal will come when it will be of a great level of, when people will be suffering a huge level of ignorance. especially about Dajjal. He will come at that time. So inshallah, if you increase your knowledge and remain refreshed in your knowledge, that will be able to see it through Dajjal. And of course, ikhlas and sincerity, that helps throughout anyway. That's why this Surah Al-Kahf is so powerful. The one hadith, which is related by Hakim and Bayhaqi, it says that whoever recites Surah Al-Kahf on Friday, Allah will give him a light that will illuminate the path for him until the next Friday, for a whole week. So you are given a spiritual light. There's a concept. The Prophet ﷺ, you say, oh Allah, make me light. Put light in front of me, behind me, above me, on my right, on my left, in my eyes, in my ears. Surah Al-Kahf gives you light. Number 2, it says, another hadith from Imam Ahmad says the Prophet ﷺ said that whoever recites Surah Al-Kahf, the beginning and the end of it, not even the entire surah, just the beginning and the end of it, according to this, Allah will give him light, illuminate him from his feet to his head. Whoever recites it all, then he will be given a light as much as between the heavens and the earth. So the more you read, the more you get out of it. Now something more specific. It says that Abu Darda radiallahu anhu relates, Sahih Muslim, is this hadith in Sahih Muslim. Whoever recites the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf, he will be protected from the Dajjal. Now, this actually supports the view that just reading those verses, because the last 10 verses they don't speak about any of these stories, they're just advices, right? So it is a kind of that magic idea that reading Surah Al-Kahf will benefit you, right? Whether you understand it or not. But to understand it will give you much better ideological confidence, inshallah, right? So that's talking about the last 10 verses, whoever reads it. The other hadith, also by Abu Darda in Sahih Muslim, is whoever memorizes the first 10 verses, then they will be protected from the Dajjal. So I'll tell you is that on Fridays, which starts from Thursday night, right? Well, after Maghrib, Friday begins in Islam. At least recite the first or last 10 verses. At least memorize. You'll eventually, once you read it often, you'll memorize them. Try to read the whole surah every week and try to get a good understanding of it, so that those stories are refreshed for us. Whenever you're feeling troubled, whenever you're feeling vulnerable, go and look at those verses. And inshallah, it will give us strength. It gives a huge amount of strength. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in verse 45 of Surah Al-Kahf, this is what He says. وَضَرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Give them an example, give them a parable of this life, the life of this world. He said, it's kama'in, it's like water, أَنزَلْنَاهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ, which we cause to descend from the heavens. فَاخْتَلَطَ بِهِ نَبَاتُ الْأَرْضِ فَأَصْبَحَ هَشِيمًا تَذْرُوهُ الرِّيَاحُ. When water comes down, and they ask for water. I remember I was in South Africa in Ramadan, they said that all of our reservoirs are only 7% of what they're supposed to be. They were praying for rain, and here we complain when we get rain, right? But the reason is that the rain comes down, and that's when the world comes to life. The greenery comes about. Well, we see that all the time. I mean, so for us it's not that big of a deal sometimes, but it all becomes green, and lots of produce takes place there. But then what happens is it gets cut. So dunyawi life and assets are like that. You can get a lot, but they could disappear. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ مُقْتَدِرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is omnipotent, has ability over all things. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for assistance, for help, for insight and the light from this surah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the benefit. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Jazakallah khair for so patiently listening.